February 17th, 2026 meeting of Murfreesboro Historic Zoning Commission. Seeing that we have a quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. Amelia, anybody for public comments today?
No one requested public comments today.
Okay, I will ask for a motion then to approve the meeting, the minutes from our December 16th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ashley, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bolden?
Here.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Busey?
Here.
Ms. Graham?
Here.
Vice Chair Belcher?
Should be.
Yes.
Yeah, if I may, a vote of here is the same as an abstention, so I would, if you are in favor of approving the minutes, I would request that you
Okay.
vote aye. If you could.
Ashley, let's do that again.
Okay.
Run it again, Ashley, sorry.
Ms. Bolden?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Busey?
Aye.
Ms. Graham?
Aye.
Vice Chair Belcher?
Aye.
Chair Davis?
Aye. Those minutes are approved. Amelia, will you tee us off here?
Certainly. This is going to be a meeting about 443 East College Street. Mr. Brad Chambers, it's an update on the status of the remodeling of an existing multifamily structure that was approved by the Historic Zoning Commission on April 15th, 2025. This property is located on the north side of East College Street, about halfway between North Highland Avenue and Mania Avenue. This house is a 1.5-story vernacular clapboard-style house with a front shed dormer, steep gabled roof, and wraparound porch. The subject property contains approximately 0.27 acres and was developed with a legally non-conforming multifamily use in a single-family zone. The property is zoned RS8, and it is in the Historic District Overlay, and is also it is also located in the CCO, which is the City Core Overlay. And the house, craftsman-style house, was what I could find was 2025, but at the previous meeting, Mr. Bill Jakes brought it out that it was probably built in the 19-teens at some point, based on the structure of the house. The Historic Zoning Commission reviewed and approved a certificate of appropriateness with 25 conditions for renovations to this property at its regularly scheduled meeting on April 15, 2025. On September 29, 2025, Building and Codes notified Mr. Chambers that the construction work was occurring without a valid permit. Subsequently, Mr. Chambers applied for a building permit to convert the structure into a single-family residence rather than restoring the original 4 apartment units, which of course is compliant. He could change it without asking you all to change it to a single-family home. On September 30th, 2025, planning approved a building permit with the requirements that an additional certificate of appropriateness be obtained through an administrative approval process. This approval was to address the orientation, restoration of the enclosed right side portion of the wraparound porch to its original configuration and incorporate all Historic Zoning Commission's approved conditions with the specified materials that was given to Mr. Chambers. On January 30th, 2026, it was determined that the applicant was not complying with the approved conditions established by the Historic Zoning Commission. As a result, the Building and Codes Department placed a stop work order on the property, and there were 8 items that we could identify at this point of the 25 that he is not following. So instead of letting it continue, we thought we would bring it back before the board and let you know where we stand with this project. I put those 8 in your minutes. I'm not going to go through each one of them. In your agenda, I'm not going to go through each one of them individually. You won't be voting on those today, so there's really no reason to do that. The applicant is in attendance today to address any questions the commission may have regarding the unmet conditions. No action is required by the Historic Zoning Commission at this time. Due to the unmet conditions, staff will be issuing a zoning violation letter for $50 per day until the home is either restored to its original condition with original materials or meets the plans from the April 2025 Historic Zoning Commission meeting. Staff will require the applicant to submit stamped, dimensioned construction drawings and color architectural elevations detailed with materials noted. This is to show how the home is to be remedied. These plans will be required to be submitted to planning for staff review 10 days prior to the submittal deadline for a future Historic Zoning Commission meeting. These plans are to be reviewed and approved by the commission for the project to move forward. Until the HCZ review and approval, Mr. Chambers has been given permission by the Building and Codes Department to cover the home with tarps. Any questions?
No, I think we'd like to hear from the applicant. Brad, do you mind coming up?
Okay,
Tell us who you are.
yeah,
We know.
my
but
name's
tell us
Brad
who-
Chambers, and I'm a contractor downtown. Well, I think I'd start with, I think we're all on the same page. We want a vibrant downtown, and the building that I bought, I'll start from when I bought it. It was supposed to go to auction. I got a phone call about 2 weeks before, and they said, make a bid now, he's selling it. And so that's how I acquired the house. I never went in the house. I didn't really know what I was getting into. We've restored many houses downtown. I haven't torn down one of them yet, and we've always been able to salvage some historical value. Unfortunately, this was a dud, and there really wasn't anything I could salvage. When I had to come before you before I got to really rip into it, and so I didn't really, the first meeting, I didn't really know what I was getting into. Okay, so we get into it, and it had been set on fire multiple times. Like, it was on no foundation. Looking back, I probably should have just torn it down, but I saved what I could, and that's what we have now. So.
For the record, I toured the house with Brad, and it's, of course, not my decision, but I thought he would have had an excellent case for demolition under an economic hardship. So I think to his credit, he has tried to maintain the historic integrity. I'll open it up now to questions from the commissioners.
Well, just what's your plan moving forward?
So my plan moving forward is, I have a couple of pictures if y'all like to see. This is what it would look like, which is very similar to what I acquired.
Thank you, Brad.
This is the, and the picture is the upstairs. I'm sorry, the downstairs.
Brad, if you would go back to the podium, please. So if I understand procedurally, we can't act on anything, so are we to, well, John, let's have you weigh in here on this now. Procedurally, what is our, what's our best route here?
Well, I will say that my understanding is that almost half of the certificate of appropriateness that was issued by the commission was not followed by the applicant. Some of them appear to have been willfully not followed. Some of them may have been due to the state of the house. And I'll let Amelia and perhaps Mr. Smotherman, who's our inspector, talk in more detail about the condition of the house. But a number of them do appear to have been willfully violated. But willfulness is not really relevant to our process. The rules of procedure do provide that in the cases of non-compliance with approved plans, the planning department director is authorized to contact the owner about the problem, request a meeting to resolve the problem, which is something like what we're doing here today. Again, this is more of an information session to let the commission know what staff is doing. The next is to coordinate the issuance of stop work order with building codes, which has been done, which means that all exterior and interior work must stop until the order is lifted. Violations may result in the issuance of a warrant against any workers on the site. The next step is to send an owner a letter by certified mail describing the problem, requesting compliance within a specific time period with a copy to the city attorney. My understanding is that letter is in process right now. I don't believe it's been issued yet. The next step is to coordinate the issuance of a citation to the Murfreesboro Police Department to appear in city court for noncompliance with the permit, and then alternatively to refer the file to the city attorney's office for further enforcement action if necessary. Then similarly, under the zoning ordinance itself, in the historic zoning section, it states that where it appears that the owner or person in charge of an improvement on a preservation site threatens or is about to do or is doing any work in violation of this article, which would include work that is in direct violation of a certificate of appropriateness, the city attorney shall, when directed by the mayor or city council, forthwith apply to an appropriate court for an injunction against such violation. If an order of the court enjoining or restraining such violation does not receive immediate compliance, the city attorney shall forthwith apply to an appropriate court to punish said violation pursuant to law. And the most relevant section is next. It states that a violation of this section, anything within the historic zoning section of the zoning ordinance, is punishable by a fine of not less than $2 and not exceeding $50, or by imprisonment not exceeding 90 days, or by both such fine and imprisonment. And each day a violation may be held to constitute a separate offense. So my understanding is the path that has been instituted by the planning director is to begin a enforcement action for violation of the zoning ordinance, which will be enforceable by a fine of $50 per day until such time as the house is completely rebuilt as it stood when the application was made, or in the alternative, until the plans as approved by this body, the certificate of appropriateness, are completed. I would have to discuss with the planning director what options we may have if this body were to entertain a very late application for demolition. But that might be another possible pathway. I'm not entirely sure what that would look like, though, given that the house has already been, it seems like, irrevocably damaged or destroyed. We need to get into more details about the specifics of the damage that's been done with either Amelia or Mr. Smotherman, because they know the details more than I do.
I'll be happy to go over.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see. Replace the front dormer window with wood window. Dormer must retain window size. Meeting minutes reflect the dormer was to remain the same as well. Anytime you change a roof line or increase the size of something that was originally there, then you reduce the significance of the historical significance of that feature. So in looking at the photo, if y'all can bring that up, the top picture, of course, is the house as it originally stood. The bottom photo is what the front of the house currently looks like, which the dormer is at least 3 times larger than what was originally there. The front entryway door that was to be retained, I don't know. It's not one of the things that I brought into this, because there's a lot of things he could still do that that would follow along with what was approved, but it appears that it is going to be, he wanted a double door to begin with, and the commission requested that he do the single door with the single transom over the top. So there again, you had a very decorative door. He requested the double door, which was denied. The dormer, which was there, is a lot smaller. There was stained glass window, which is prevalent in that time period when this was put in. That was removed, and I do not believe that that is still, I don't know, maybe he has it in a storage building. His information to me was that he didn't have it. So that's problematic. The brick piers were to remain on the bottom of the house. So this section right here, all of these little piers were supposed to stay, and then there was supposed to be an offset with new brick behind it. So it had a visual effect of the piers actually being the focal point, because those piers are very important for this time frame. That porch originally started out, it would be an open air porch. But they did give him the option of keeping the piers and putting the extra brick between the piers, which you can see that was not done. The west side wraparound porch was supposed to remain. Applicant wanted to put a driveway around there. That was a very large topic of conversation, that this was a very important feature of this home, was the wraparound porch, and the wraparound porch is no longer there. The rear shed dormer could be expanded with the same elevation that it had and be widened to 3 feet of each side of the rear of the house, and he's taken that into a full 2-story house. Added a portico to the side. I'm not really sure what, but he did do as he originally stated, and was going to put the front porch back as a full wraparound porch, which I thought was going to be a full wraparound porch, but now you only have, looks like what will be a covered porch on the right side of the house. Removal of the the steps and the cheek walls are then to be replaced with brick, and they must match the existing size and style. Introduce brick skirting around the porch and highlight the brick piers, which I've already discussed. So that's where we are to date. There were quite a few, as I mentioned, that that he could still implement into the project, but what has happened at this point is detrimental to the historic value of, or the historical significance of the house.
Can I talk?
Please do, yes.
Okay, so whether I bought the house, okay, can we go, do you have the pull-up of what was there before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I stayed across from the house, and it was a mess, to say the least. There was multiple criminal offenses at that house that I witnessed, and I got a police report too. What you had is 4 dwellings. It's nothing that anybody had any interest in downtown. It was literally the cheapest place you could find to rent, is the only reason they were there. And so whether I got it or another landlord got it and depreciated it for another 10 years, and we all had to deal with that, it was going to get knocked down either way. And somebody was going to build a completely new structure that had 0 value, historical value, and looked nothing like what that house looks like. What I did is just update the house and make it make sense. You're talking about the front porch. Well, those bricks, we literally just picked them apart. I don't understand how I could save that. There was no footer. They just fell over. As far as the stained glass, that whole wall was charcoal when we pulled it down. Like, we tried to save it and it crumbled. There was nothing to it. It's paper thin. As far as it was never a wraparound porch when I bought it, and it's still the same amount as front porch. I just flipped it. And the reason I did that is because I needed somewhere to put all the HVAC units and the gas, and everything's on that left side. And then we could cover it with some vegetation and make it look really nice. So, I mean, it's the same amount, it's the same footprint basically, and it just got rearranged a little bit to make it a nice single-family house for somebody.
Please do. Speak into the mic, Ruth.
And I understand the problems you dealt with the house and stuff falling apart and all that, and I understand that you had to get new materials and all that, but why couldn't you have put it back the same door size as was requested, the same window size, the horizontal stained glass window, put back something similar? The width of the porch looks more narrow. All the things that are now gone, that it looks now like a modern house with the window size, the double doors, the type of columns that are in your drawing with the very modern looking bases and capital.
Well, yeah, if you go down, say, East Main and look at any of those really historic houses, every single one of them have double doors. And
That was not appropriate to this house.
well,
the
like I
time
said,
period.
keeping this like historic, whatever the contributing factor is really kind of a moot point, because whether I got it or somebody else, it was coming down. There was really nothing historic about it. And like I said, I tried to put it back the best we could. If there was anything salvageable, we salvaged it.
But if it had been torn down, then we could have made requirements of the builder to put it back in a similar fashion and make it in keeping
Yeah.
with the style of the
Yes.
street.
Yes,
And in the
yes.
historic zoning
Right.
commission. So
Yes.
either
So
way,
the
you
two
could have.
houses next door resembled what was there before?
Yes.
No,
They don't.
What?
They came in for approval, though. They may not be in replication of what was there, but
Oh.
they came before the commission for approval. Yeah.
Oh, but also, it does bear mentioning that the only legal way to demolish a house in the historic district is to come before this body and seek approval for the demolition. A property owner cannot legally just tear their house apart, which seems to have been done here.
there was no other option to make a
Well,
structurally
the option would have
sound.
been to bring an application to the body as the zoning ordinance clearly requires. That would have been the option, which wasn't done.
I mean, when you tore down the dormer, it's not a lovely dormer, I admit how it is, but that's how it was added at some point. What was your decision-making to make it triple the size instead of putting it back like it was, as one example?
Because, well, like you said, it wasn't very appealing, one. And two, we needed the space upstairs to make a nice living area.
But that's not what it said in these 8, or the requirements here, the 8 things that did not remain the same as
And
previously
the
approved.
dormer was right. We had to take it down anyways. I mean, I don't know what you want to say.
May I ask a question?
Please do.
I cannot quite tell from this picture of the home as it looked before you purchased it. Is the driveway on the right side of the house?
It is, and it would remain on the right side.
I'm confused then. Wasn't your justification for removing the left-hand wraparound porch to make room for a driveway?
No.
I'm confused.
Initially, when I first bought the house, I thought I was going to keep it a fourplex. That's when I came here. But after talking to neighbors and whatnot, they said, "Hey, man, we'd really like it appreciate it if you put it back single family." So I said, "Okay, I can do that," and that's what it originally was too, a single family. So that's how that.
Okay, I guess I was just asking for clarification as to chopping off the left-hand side of the front
So
porch.
that Well, there's a couple of reasons, but the main reasons is that I need somewhere to put the HVAC units. Originally, when I bought the house, there was window units. There's one on the right side, there's one on the left side, one in the back, and so the units, the gas, that would all go on the left-hand side.
But could it not have gone behind where that side porch ended? And then it would have been a benefit to open back up the right side and leave the left side and put those units behind there.
I'm not sure if I understand what you're...
So on the left-hand side, it looks like the porch ends before the end of the house. So there, it seems like there would have been room to place those utilities there.
No, I mean, the way it's laid out is the best way possible for turning it back to a single-family residence.
So for clarification, you're removing the left-hand side that was specifically mandated to be remaining because of the placements of the HVAC unit?
Right, and it's not a fourplex anymore. There's no door on that side.
Well, that's immaterial. You're trying to create the
Aesthetically, it
look.
looked correct to do it on the right. And like I said, when I bought it, technically, it wasn't a wraparound.
Yes,
wasn't.
it was. It was that way. It had a wraparound on the left
No, it's
and
not
on
a
the...
wraparound. It's not, there wasn't a porch on both sides. They had built where the porch was.
On the right side, they had
On the right
enclosed
side.
it. On the
So-
left side, it clearly went around like two bays. I mean, it clearly, and your rendering as you show it here and on the floor plans indicates no intention of rebuilding what you say just fell apart. But the commission was indicating the need to retain that feature, whether it was repaired or whether it was replaced, restored. That's the key.
Well, like I said, it's still got just as much front porch space as it ever did. It's just
No,
on
it
the right
doesn't. You
side.
just took off how much on the left side.
Yeah, but then you
It's
added it to
front
the
porch,
right.
it's side porch, but it's porch, it's
I-
wraparound.
Not more narrow? Is it not more narrow? It looks, or maybe the word is
I
not as
didn't
deep.
measure exactly how big the porch was.
I think the main feature is the symmetry, that the porch extending the same amount on either side, whether it was closed in or not, beyond the main core of the house, the symmetry of that porch. I think that's kind of what we're getting at.
Yes.
And,
Whether it was chopped off on one side or the other, the symmetry is
well,
altered.
there's not another wraparound front porch in all of downtown. There's not another house that has one.
Then that would make it that much more important to retain it, because it would be special and unique to downtown at that point.
Guys, the whole thing we're harping on is keeping this historic. It was never going to be historic again. Like I said, all I did was nip it in the bud and put something up nice, then have it rented out for another 10 years and have everything that goes along with that. There was
You
nothing to
didn't
say.
have approval for that.
Like I said before, I've never torn one down. I've never torn a historic house down. I didn't know what I was getting into when I came here before, right? I did everything I could to save what was there. We even built around the roof, the existing roof that's there.
Brad, were
That
you,
front roof is original.
were you unfamiliar with the process of how to go through to seek a demolition permit then when you got to that point, if this was your one example of where it didn't pan out?
Well, it just kind of happened. I mean,
Okay, just
it wasn't
happened.
like. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you should-
we started reframing, and then it's like, well, that needs to be reframed, and well,
Okay.
that doesn't work either. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever, done an extensive remodel, but you replace one thing new, usually the old thing doesn't line up, and then it just kind of creates a
Yeah,
dominoes effect.
you pull a nail and rebuild the house. I'm familiar with it. But I mean, the plans don't appear to reflect any of the 25 items that were specifically called out in the
And
meeting.
that's not true. The 25 items.
Well,
-8.
minus 8. Okay, well, no.
Significant items.
Yes, they are. I mean, it's significant to what, I mean, I applaud you
Yeah.
for wanting to restore the house, and I appreciate that you want to convert it back to a single-family home. And we want the house, whether it's restored, repaired, or replicated, to still have the character and have the appearance in the neighborhood that I think probably the residents in the community value. That's why you want to come to a historic district, is because the look, the appearance, the feel.
And I've done that multiple times down here.
I understand that, but I'm saying
No?
I understand that's your intent, but I'm saying that's why people want a historic home in those areas, even if you're having to replace items that are irreparably harmed and need to be replaced. It appears you've elected to do something different. Essentially what you originally came in asking for is what I'm observing. So that's why I asked the question, did you realize the process to need to come in and seek a demolition permit and submit new plans that would need to be reviewed?
I was not familiar.
Okay.
When Mr. Chambers first came to my office, I did tell him his options. He
Okay.
absolutely did not want to tear the house down. He was emphatical about that.
Okay.
And so that's why we went to the alteration route. But I did tell him what would be required in order to do a demolition. You know, in hindsight, I wished he had come back and asked for the demolition, but he didn't.
Okay.
Oh, this is not a public hearing. I will allow comments. Would you state your name, please?
Certainly. My name's Cassidy Boardman.
Say again, I'm sorry?
Cassidy Boardman.
Okay, Cassidy.
So
I
I'm
think we'll
hopeful
observe a 3-minute.
I'm hopeful to purchase this home. I understand this is
There you go.
I understand it's a meeting about zoning and the historic value of this property. In my eyes, he is retaining that. That's why I'm excited about it. I think it's interesting that
Can
as
you
went-
state your address?
my address, 615 Ridge Road, Parkersburg, West Virginia, 26105.
So you don't live on Lytle Street now?
My hope is to move to this home, yeah. So as we go through the procedures,
College, yeah.
as we go through the procedures, you mentioned that we were to have a meeting, right? And then following the meeting, there would be a posting. Do we follow those procedures?
I'm sorry, say your question again?
Sure. There was supposed to be a meeting to let Brad know that he didn't follow the procedures.
Let me pull those up and I'll tell you specifically. So the procedures that I recited before
Yes, sir.
state that the secretary is authorized to do these following, and it does say additionally or alternately. So it is in the secretary being the building codes, or I'm sorry, the planning director's discretion, which procedure he decides to follow.
Okay. And so is Brad currently being penalized at a rate of $50 per day?
Once that letter is issued, yes, the $50 per day will begin to accrue.
Until such a time that he overcomes a stop work permit?
I believe it will be until such time as the house is repaired, either to the state that it was in when the application was made. I think with the same materials that were used in the house originally, or until such time as he complies with all of the certificates of appropriateness and returns the other items in the house back to where they were before.
How does he do that if there's a stop work in place?
The procedure, I believe, that the planning director has elected to go forward with is he will be required to submit construction architectural drawings that show what he intends to do. Those drawings will come before this body for approval. Once this body approves those drawings, then the stop work order will be lifted. The $50 per day amount will continue to accrue, but if he proceeds diligently with constructing according to those plans, then any accrual during that time period will be not sought by the city. So it'll just be the period from now until the plans are approved, assuming that the plans are followed and followed diligently.
Okay, so you have a set of plans in front of you now. Would the commission consider a demolition retroactively based on the findings as the builder was engaged in the process and the recognition that he could not, in fact, do what he had hoped to do.
I believe I would need to discuss that with the planning director and possibly with the chairman. We can take a recess if the chairman wishes to do so, to have that discussion. This is a bit of a unique situation.
I would greatly appreciate it. I'm certain Brad would. I mean, you guys recognize this was a built down or a burnt down home at the time that he came in, and so I think maybe the work product isn't exactly throughout downtown the way that you guys would see it, but I think he's doing great things for this downtown. That's why I'm excited to be here. So if you would consider that, I'd really appreciate it.
I think so. Should we go into recess?
We could do that if you wish to do so.
And-
I would recommend that you request a motion to do so.
Motion to go into recess?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you guys for
All-
hearing me.
Ashley, you want to call the roll, please?
Ms. Bolden?
Aye.
Ms. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Busey?
Aye.
Ms. Graham?
Aye.
Vice Chair Belcher?
Aye.
Chair Davis?
Aye. We are. I appreciate that. I'm going to call us back in session, and Ben Newman is going to articulate some suggestions here.
Thank you, Chairman Davis. After consulting with Mr. Tolley and yourself, we cannot stop an applicant from applying for a demo certificate of appropriateness. However, I think in this case, that would be very difficult for this body to grant. You know, it's kind of, you're asking to review the evidence when the evidence has been destroyed, and there's no engineer that can go in at this point and determine whether the structure is sound or not, and to do all of the other measuring, testing, documentation that would need to take place to approve something like that. So while Mr. Chambers can apply for that, I think that if he wants to go that route, it would also be in his best interest to have some plans drawn up for this body to approve, to consider and approve on how this property will be returned to the way that it was approved in front of this body. And so I think that's, it's showing a dimensioned plan of the architectural elevations from each side of the building, describing the materials, describing the styles that were used so that it can be returned to the way that this body approved it. I think that this body can approve that and then can move forward in trying to resolve this matter.
Okay.
And I want to talk to Mr. Chambers after this meeting too, just so that I know he'll have questions, and we want to try to help him get to the end, to get to the goal, which I think is getting this home restored to the way that this body approved it.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. So,
I know this is not a public hearing, but is there any way I can speak?
yes, come up and tell us who you are
All right.
And your address.
and your address.
Okay, my name is Lisa Cisco. I live at 223 North Academy. I'm the current vice president of the APTA, the Association for Preservation of Tennessee Antiquities. So this house has never had a sign on it. No one's ever tried to prove it had historic significance. We take all that pretty seriously. We make people do a lot of research on houses before we sign them. I live not in the historic zone, but just around the corner. I'm probably 4 blocks. I'm probably the closest person in this room. And, this house, as far as I know, has sat empty for a long time. We have a lot of undesirable rentals in this area. I don't see, I know Brad's a good local boy. He may have done some things differently, but, I've also done some remodeling, and things don't always turn out like you first thought. But you never do it to make it worse. You're trying to make it an improvement, and I just don't see how a single front door has any historic significance. I have a single front door, and we have trouble moving furniture in it. And, I wouldn't change it just because, I don't want to go through the expense of trying to find something that would fit. But I don't understand why we're trying to preserve or even ask him to put this house back in the condition that it was. It has been burned multiple times. As a neighbor, I'm not impressed with that. I think maybe we should poll the neighbors. I live just one house away from College Street. So, I don't know anybody else here that lives as close as that, but would you want to live next door to a fourplex that's been set on fire multiple times and say it's really, the house that's 2 doors down, it doesn't blend with the downtown area at all. It looks like a church. And
Thank you for those comments, but please remember, we have a set of guidelines that we have to.
Yes.
And my years on the commission, I think we have done a pretty good job of giving leeway to people who make improvements, as Brad has.
I don't know.
Several times.
I'm friends with a lot of people downtown, and I've watched some of your when it's taped, and I don't know. I don't really understand how some things are decided historically significant. And I mean, I don't think anybody downtown is trying to do anything that's going to hurt their property value. I mean, I'm just not really, and I know
Well,
there's.
I appreciate your thought. I would encourage you to apply for a seat on the commission. I can always
I would be
use
happy to, and I've inquired.
Okay.
So, but it seems like maybe there aren't any downtown people on the commission. Okay. Okay, good. Well, I know you, yes. But, and I know you because you were a customer at my business. But, you know, we're just local people trying to live. And, I mean, I'm not interested in having crack houses as neighbors.
Well, thank you for your input. We appreciate it. Name and address, please.
Name is Grant Wharton. I live at 451 East College Street. So that's 2 houses down from this particular house. And I may be one of the culprits that it's a single family. Because I know Brad, and when he told me that it was, you know, he's going to turn it into a fourplex, I was like, oh, you know, from my perspective, is single families come into the area, and it's such. I live there not necessarily because of the historic district. I can appreciate that, but I live there because of the close proximity to the square, and just being able to be an active participant with those businesses and business owners. And so, as a business owner myself, I've really appreciated College Street and where we live. And so, when Brad started to renovate such a horrendous house, we were ecstatic because it was falling apart. And unfortunately, when I see it from a picture, it looks far better than reality. It was rotting and falling apart. And so when you look at that picture, you think, oh, well, like you could have done this and could have done that. But unfortunately, that's just not the condition that was in. And I do understand there is a path and a procedure. And so what I simply ask is that you all would consider a path that would allow him to move forward with what he's done. It's kind of like, to your point, that dormer that did exist was pretty darn ugly. It was way too small architecturally with the size of the home. And so because I have a vested interest, because I live so close to it, I am asking that you guys consider, you know, letting him have a little bit of reign to actually improve the look versus just repeat what's been done. And so anyway, we're very thankful. And being a new resident in Murfreesboro as of January of last year, we've really loved this area and love what we have with being able to just walk to the square. I mean, it's really cool. We didn't have that where we lived before. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it. So I think from this point forward, Brad, if you'll meet with Mr. Newman afterwards, and we would look forward to hearing from you again in the future, and maybe we can resolve this. Any more business to come before the commission?
Can I drive?
Sure. Sure. Come on, Brad.
So can I drive the house in? Because this has been getting.
You'll have to talk to Mr. Newman about that.
Okay.
The only other business I believe we discussed at our workshop last week, making a couple of motions perhaps.
I'm going to table that.
Yes, sir.
We'll do that another day.
Okay.
Thanks, John. I will ask for a motion to adjourn. And thank all of you for coming out today.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second? Ashley, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bolden?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Busey?
Aye.
Ms. Graham?
Aye.
Vice Chair Belcher?
Aye.
Chair Davis?
Aye. We are adjourned.